Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we usually think of innovation as something that only happens in massive, glossy corporate labs with literal blank check budgets. But today, we're diving into a story that completely flips that idea on its head. We're looking at the journey of a 19-year-old named Ethan, and through his story, we're going to extract the actual blueprint for resilience, creativity, and underdog success. So let's jump right into this.
Because, as it turns out, the biggest inventions often begin in the smallest places. Ethan doesn't have some high-tech facility. He's just living in a small village. And this really reminds us that the origin of a world-changing idea, it isn't about geography, and it certainly isn't about wealth. It's simply about having the willingness to look at a totally common problem and actually believe that a better way is possible.
So, the real question we're looking at here is, how does that actually happen? How does a curious village boy go on to change the lives of millions? Hold on to that thought as we go through this. I mean, think about your own life, your career, or even your side projects for a second. How often do you count yourself out just because you feel like you don't have the right resources or the perfect background? Ethan's story strips all those excuses away.
All right, part one, a dream takes root. Let's set the scene. Ethan is just 19 years old. It's early morning in his village, and he's repairing this old farming tool with his dad, Samuel. And as he works, he's watching the local farmers just struggling. They're doing this back-breaking, exhausting manual labor just to survive. Most people see that and just accept it as a fact of life, right? But Ethan envisions a machine that could do the heavy lifting for them. He sees a massive problem, and a dream takes root.
But almost immediately, that mindset gets tested. A wealthy visitor comes through the village, sees Ethan tinkering around, and literally laughs in his face. Tells him there's absolutely no way a village boy could ever be a real inventor. But Ethan? He doesn't even get mad. He just smiles and says, "Every great invention begins with one idea." You really have to be so anchored in your own belief to just brush off the mockery of people who can't see your vision. And turning that single idea into reality takes a relentless amount of work. He isn't sitting around waiting for some magic spark of genius to hit him. No, he is out there scavenging old machine parts. He's devouring science books to figure out the mechanics, building tiny prototypes, constantly fixing broken tools to sharpen his skills. This is the totally unglamorous, day-to-day grind that innovation actually requires. It's tough, but that is exactly where the magic is built.
Of course, it doesn't always look pretty. Ethan has this incredibly loyal, funny best friend named Max who supports him. But even Max has to joke that the workshop basically looks like a total junkyard. And Ethan's response is just brilliant. Today's junk is tomorrow's invention. It just goes to show that where everyone else literally sees trash, an innovator sees raw materials. It is all about perspective.
Which brings us to part two, the value of true character. Because Ethan suddenly hits a massive ethical crossroads. One day, out by a bus stop, he finds this seriously expensive laptop. Max, being the practical one, whispers that they should just sell it. I mean, for a broke village boy trying to build machines, that cash would be an unbelievable shortcut, wouldn't it? But Ethan doesn't even blink. He decides to return it. And this moment, it builds the foundation for his entire future.
It turns out, the owner of that laptop is a brilliant engineer named Professor Olivia. When Ethan hands it back, she gives us this incredibly profound takeaway. She says, "Intelligence is valuable. Character is priceless." Because he showed such rock-solid integrity, Professor Olivia doesn't just say thank you. She actually opens a major door for him and invites this curious kid right into her professional engineering lab. And this kicks off a really beautiful progression where Ethan finally learns how to formally invent under her expert mentorship. He goes from just raw passion to serious, structured discipline. We're talking taking actual engineering classes, mastering proper machine design, rigorously testing prototypes, and systematically solving technical problems. The raw talent of the village tinkerer is leveling up into a master engineer. During all this, Professor Olivia drops a piece of advice that is honestly a total game changer. She tells him, "Inventors don't wait for perfect ideas. They improve imperfect ones."
Think about how many of us just freeze up waiting for that absolutely flawless concept before we even start creating something. Real innovation is literally just taking something flawed and tweaking it until it actually works.
Moving on to part 3, choosing integrity over profit. Ethan is making incredible progress on his invention, but it's not quite finished. And here enters Mr. Victor. He's this greedy businessman who sees a golden opportunity, and he offers Ethan a massive cash payout right on the spot to sell the unfinished machine. But there's a catch. Victor wants to take all the credit for the work. It's the ultimate shortcut to wealth.
So, look at the dilemma here. On one side, you have quick wealth, but you lose your credit. On the other side, meaningful impact and keeping your integrity intact. I want you to seriously ask yourself what you would do. If you were exhausted working out of a makeshift junkyard and someone dangled easy money for a shortcut in your career, would you take it? It's highly tempting.
But Ethan shuts it down. He looks Victor in the eye and says, "I'd rather build something meaningful than become rich overnight." Mr. Victor storms off angry, but Ethan's choice really cements the whole theme here. True success, the kind that actually lasts and changes the world, demands unwavering integrity. You just can't sell out your purpose for a quick payday.
So Ethan stays the course, and after literally hundreds of failed attempts, remember, improving imperfect ideas, he finally builds a harvesting machine that makes the farmer's work exponentially faster. Now, it wouldn't be Ethan and Max without a little chaos, right? During the big test, Max accidentally hits the wrong button and the machine just blasts hay absolutely everywhere. Everyone bursts out laughing. But after fixing that little hiccup, it works perfectly. The farmers are celebrating, the dream is real. But then we hit part 4, overcoming setbacks with imagination. Things take a pretty serious turn. Ethan's machine is such a massive hit that a huge, powerful corporation completely copies his design. Ethan and his team are absolutely crushed. They feel totally defeated. They don't have the legal teams or the deep pockets to fight a giant corporation.
This is a massive make-or-break moment. You have the large company's static, stolen design going up against Ethan's uncopyable imagination. And Ethan really steps up as a leader here. He looks at his devastated team and totally flips the perspective. He tells them, look, the corporation only stole a machine. They stole the past. What they could never steal is the innate creativity that built it in the first place.
He delivers this absolute powerhouse of a line. They copied our machine, they can't copy our imagination. And that realization changes everything. Instead of just wallowing in defeat, the team channels that unstealable imagination into building an even better, way more advanced version of the harvester. They literally out-innovate the setback.
And the compounding effect of that resilience is just undeniable. Just look at how this plays out. Year 1, he's a village tinkerer playing with junk. Year 3, an engineering mentee learning the ropes. By year 5, he's the inventor of a massive harvesting machine fighting off corporate copycats. Fast forward to year 10, Ethan is the CEO of one of the world's leading tech companies. It wasn't overnight, but the compounding effect of curiosity and integrity made it inevitable.
Which brings us to part 5, inspiring the next generation. Ethan finally hits global recognition. We're talking massive magazine headlines screaming, "Village Boy invents machine that changes millions of lives." He has literally achieved the exact dream he talked about in that first scene with his dad. He has reached the absolute pinnacle of success.
And right in the middle of all this global acclaim, a reporter asks him a super poignant question. They ask, "What's your greatest invention?" Now, you'd probably expect Ethan to name his latest high-tech marvel or that original harvester. But Ethan just smiles and gives a one-word answer, hope. It was never just about the metal and the gears for him.
And he actually backs that up with action. He uses his immense resources to give back, building free science schools, funding rural innovation centers, and empowering curious kids in villages exactly like the one he grew up in. Watching all this, his father Samuel tells him something incredible. He didn't just invent a machine. He invented a completely better future.
In our very last scene, Ethan goes back to his old village workshop. And this young boy looks up at him and asks the exact same question that rich visitors scoffed at all those years ago. Can someone from a small village become a great inventor? And I want to throw that question right back to you, the viewer. Swap out small village with whatever perceived limitation you think you have. Can someone with your background achieve greatness?
Ethan just hands the kid a toolbox and drops our final, ultimate lesson. Great inventions don't come from big cities. They come from curious minds. Every single problem has a solution if you just refuse to give up. So I'm going to leave you with this. What imperfect idea are you sitting on right now? And what small step are you going to take today to start building your own better future?